never once in the time that I was pregnant or once Olivia came thought to myself, I wish somebody else was doing this with me.
Yeah.
Do I want another pair of hands? Yes, I do. Do I want a partner? No, I don't.
Yeah.
I've never, ever thought that that would be the better option. And maybe it is because of my upbringing and, you know, I've seen what it is to have somebody go into a relationship that is not healthy, not okay, and have no option to leave.
Hello and welcome to The Heart of It. We would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay our respects to the elders both past and present. My name's Ali Daddo.
And I'm Cam Daddo.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Feeling okay?
Yeah, good. I'm still kind of ruminating on the podcast that we had with our lovely Rachel and how beautiful that was.
Yes, we were joined in the studio earlier by our boss.
Yeah.
Our boss, Rachel Corbett's title here at Nova is Head of Podcasts and Digital Content, but not so many of us know Executive Rachel.
Well, we know her as the weekend host of The Project on Channel 10, which she's worked on for over a decade, right? And some other Channel 10 shows as well.
Yep.
I don't know where she finds the time. Like, she's just got so much going on and stuff that we find out also.
Yeah. Because,
everything else.
Yeah, because she's really generous in creating educational podcasts about how to be a better podcaster, how to get your ideas onto the airwaves.
Yep.
And she is a podcaster herself.
Correct. And she's got a new one called Me and My Tiny Human. How cute is that?
Yeah.
Where she's taking us on the journey of solo motherhood.
During our chat with Rachel, she was talking about, she takes us on quite a journey.
She sure does.
The bit where she's in the hospital having given birth to Olivia and it's night 2.
Yeah.
And how that was for her and what the night nurse said to her.
Oof.
A bit tough.
It's a bit tough. Yeah. Relatable, I'm sure, to a lot of mums out there.
Yeah.
It gets very emotional, I think, for all three of us. We talk about the passing of Rachel's mum and the inspiration that her mum still brings to her today, actually, and what she learned from her childhood and how she's shifted that and parenting from a whole other place.
Yes, and speaking of whole other places, she takes us to Greece on a Greek fishing boat.
Ooh, now that's a story. Oh, yeah. Well, we're getting to the heart of things with Rachel Corbett and really hope you enjoy the chat.
Hey, welcome, Rach, to the heart of it.
You got a new name you got to get your head around.
I do, because I was about to say, welcome to the... No, we're out of there now.
I know. You're almost getting her in the bathroom with us. No longer in the bathroom.
No, we're not there. We're not there.
To the heart of it. I know.
Yeah, we normally start with how did you two meet, but we clearly, we know.
Yeah, exactly. She came out my sunroof is how I met my little person.
We are actually, we have to be in our best behaviour, I feel like, for this one, because Rach is basically our boss.
She's our boss.
So if we don't get this right,
She's the
God
boss.
knows what may happen.
Okay, so let's start here then. As you're the boss, right? So not many people, a lot of people know you in different ways. So take us through just a week in the life of Rachel Corbett. You've got so many hats.
I work at Nova, obviously. I run the network here. And then I'm also on The Project on a Sunday. And then I'm now a solo mum. And I also have a business, which is a podcasting course. And I have 2 podcasts.
What? Even I didn't know all of that. Holy crap.
So I do a lot outside the hours of my job and a lot when my kid is asleep. And I honestly have always been like that, even before I had a kid. But it does add a different level of exhaustion to the whole process, but I'm not quite sure how to shake that me.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know that I want to either.
Yeah,
you know?
sure.
I just kind of want to try and do everything, but I am conscious that now it's a lot more responsibility, effort, time when I'm with my daughter than it was before. Those hours are now taken up by something that can be very rewarding, but let's be honest, very draining.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I don't have a lot left in the tank. So I don't know. That's the juggle for me. Is I've always been the type of person that's taken more onto my plate than I can probably manage. But I'm conscious that I have to recognize I'm a bit of a different person now. So I got to get my mind into how I navigate that.
I mean, clearly you're not adverse to taking on incredibly wonderful challenges. Where is that from? Is that something that you were raised by doing that? It was mum and dad like that? Or where does that come from for you?
I think honestly it was kind of my upbringing, but not necessarily the way my mum and dad were so much as, you know, I'm a kid of divorce, that classic kind of life changes, everything shifts when that happens, and then you find yourself in a new reality that you have to navigate. And I don't know that I've met many kids who've had a good experience of that.
How old were you when your folks divorced?
13.
Oh, okay.
So
That's a critical time.
Yeah, my memory of life before that, I don't have any negative memories. You know,
interesting.
Even though my parents obviously weren't in a great relationship, I didn't feel like that was terribly evident to me. My dad was also away a lot because he travelled for business a lot. I don't remember feeling like he wasn't there as a kid. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting too. But then once my parents split up, everything went to shit.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and so I would say probably for a period from 13 to, I would say probably my early 30s, it was pretty hard going. You know, I was still getting stuff done. I was still accomplishing, managing, whatever. But in terms of the emotional stuff in my life, there was a lot going on. And I ended up having, both my parents had forms of dementia. My mum had Alzheimer's and my father had Lewy body dementia. You know, the Alzheimer's with my mother was really terrible. My father, I ended up being sole carer for him basically. And so it was this very, very long period. That was kind of into my 40s. So in terms of like just getting things done, it's just always been since that kind of moment, the sort of default position really.
Wow.
So you're very practiced at multitasking.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of caring, of taking the load on of caring as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was a big thing for me to, you know, it took me a long time to have a kid. You know, I was 42 when I had my daughter. Part of that was I did it by myself. So you need some time to get your head right and your mind, like your emotions right, your finances right, all that kind of stuff to do that. It's a big decision to do on your own. But also I'd come out of over 10 years of looking after parents and sick parents. I was like, I just can't look after anybody else right now, you know. So that was a big thing for me at that point in time.
And was that to be a mum after being a carer of your folks? Was that just like, that's just an instinctual thing. It's like, I want to be a mother.
Yeah, I've always, since I was little, thought I want to be a mum. I've always felt like, even when I was sort of in those 20s where I'm just like, what am I doing? Am I any good at anything? Like, where am I going? All that kind of stuff. In the back of my mind, even though I didn't want to do it then, I just felt like, I think the only thing I'm really going to be good at is being a mum. I've just always felt like that would be something that I would be good at. And so I've wanted to do it forever, but I haven't wanted to do it at that time for a long time. So I would often think, like, when I got to late 30s, I came out of a long-term relationship. I realized I don't have much time to meet somebody now and get to the level with somebody that I want to get to feel secure and safe enough to have a child. Because once I have a child with someone, I'm stuck with them for the rest of my life.
That's right, yeah.
So I didn't feel like I had enough time. But I was also conscious that my biological clock is ticking and I'm thinking to myself, I've wanted to do this since I can remember, but I'm still not ready. I'm still not at that point where I'm like, and why? I know that I want to do this, but it took me a long time. I think obviously because I was on my own as well, it did take me a long time to get myself into the right space, even though it's something I've wanted to do forever.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly the same as you. You know, I can't remember a time that I haven't wanted to be a mum. And I knew even when I was younger that whether I had a partner or not, I was going to have a baby. That was my absolute dream destiny. And yeah, it was like, if I'm whatever age and I still don't have someone, I will still have a child.
That's interesting because I sort of thought a similar thing.
Yeah.
And I often wonder, it's different for you. You ended up in a great relationship and had kids, and I did end up on my own. And I thought to myself, did I will this into existence? Or did I just know myself so well that I knew if this is where I ended up, I would do this? Because probably in my 30s, before I met my last partner, I would often say to myself, I think I'll be a solo mum. I used to say, I think I'll be a solo mum and somebody's second wife.
Okay.
I don't know why I thought that. I thought I'll probably meet somebody that's divorced later.
Yep.
You know,
Well, he's gone through all the. He's learned a lot. He's learned how to be a good listener.
Yes.
And
but at this point, I'm just like, actually, that bit I don't want anymore, because I can't even imagine being into somebody anymore. That might seem really weird, but I just feel like I cannot imagine being interested in someone, wanting somebody a part of my life. I don't know, what's happened to me?
Yeah.
I just really have no interest. And I don't know whether that's just because I'm in the thick of it. My kid isn't 2 yet. You know, I'm still in the sort of thick of it. And maybe once she's a little more independent, I'll change that. But I can't imagine being with
What is
anyone.
your daughter's name?
Olivia.
Olivia. Oh.
Do you read the books, Olivia? The Olivia books?
No.
You need to get them.
The pig. That's
pig,
the pig.
Olivia
oh,
the
they're
pig.
the best.
So good.
They're
Okay, I'll
so
get them.
Oh,
funny.
they're so good. Oh,
Yeah.
you'll laugh out loud. Olivia's a classic.
They're
You might
really
have an
good.
Olivia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
do.
that's so
Olivia's
true.
got such a personality.
There's so many things I want to get into.
Yeah,
Has there been what's been your strangest or funniest reaction from people that when you've said that you're a solo mum and you've decided to do it all on your own?
Well, the strangest is I took a trip to Greece when I was pregnant. I was 3 months pregnant. I thought I'm not going to be able to get on a long haul flight for a long time. And
Yeah.
I always wanted to go to Greece. So I went over there. Some friends of mine were going and went along. And we were out on this boat one day with this old school, he's a fisherman, and we're out in the boat. He kept offering me wine all day. I kept saying, no. And then eventually I said, look, I'm pregnant. Oh, you're pregnant? Congratulations. And he sort of in this broken English starts asking me about the father. And I said, oh, there's no man. Just, he was next level, could not believe it, to the point where the actual sort of escalation of his reaction was when he hurled himself out of the boat to express his shock and horror at what I was doing, and was at me all day long on this boat, to the point where my mates and all of the people that were on the boat were just like, are you okay? This is a lot. In my mind, I'm like, this is really confirming my life choices. This is actually making me feel like I went down the right path.
I rest my case.
I got to say, But it was just so over the top. And then at the end, he pulled me aside he put into Google Translate that he apologised and could you please leave me a good TripAdvisor review? So I was like always thinking about the customers. But yeah, I do often get some very strange reactions. I think one of the more subtle reactions that I notice a lot, and part of the reason why I wanted to kind of start a podcast about this and kind of talk about it a bit more publicly, was that people would ask me, oh my God, see, you're pregnant. And they would say, they'd ask me kind of, not even sort of, who's your partner, but they'd ask me something in that vein that would make me go, oh, actually, I did it myself. And that split second reaction that I could see that showed me, they were like, oh God, I shouldn't have asked, that this is probably a touchy subject. They assumed that it was a bit of a consolation prize for me.
Right. Okay,
and that
gotcha.
they didn't want to upset, because obviously you've tried to find the man, it didn't work.
Yeah.
You're stuck with this option.
Yeah.
And so I just really didn't like that response and felt like I always had to get ahead of it to be like, I chose to do this. I'm really happy to do it.
Yeah.
I did it by myself, because there was this real sense, even from men and women, oh, you poor thing. And I'm like, I don't feel that way at all. I actually feel like this is the best possible way that I could have done it. I've never once in the time that I was pregnant or once Olivia came thought to myself, I wish somebody else was doing this with me.
Yeah.
Do I want another pair of hands? Yes, I do. Do I want a partner? No, I don't. I've never, ever thought that that would be the better option. And maybe it is because of my upbringing and, I've seen what it is to have somebody go into a relationship that is not healthy, not okay, and have no option to leave.
Yeah.
And so I think growing up in that environment and seeing what that was like, I really recognized and almost kind of it sunk into my bones in a way that I want to be independent, able to do my own thing. And maybe that's kind of made me go as far to that extreme as possible.
Yeah.
But I found it a very powerful, exciting, great way to do things, but I did notice that a lot of people thought, oh, this must be a bit sad for you.
Well, okay, so that's a misconception then. Are there other misconceptions around it? And what do you wish people knew more about solo parenting?
I think you have absolutely no idea. And I don't say this saying like, I think sometimes people can get a bit angry at other people for having partners. And it's like, this is a decision you made. Like, it's tough, but you're on your own and you made that choice, right? So, but sometimes I don't think you can have any idea of like what it actually is about unless you've done it on your own.
Yeah.
Even if you've, sometimes I'll talk to parents like, oh yeah, I'm like my partner went away for a week, and I'm like, yeah, but you still had somebody to call every time you had a drama and say, hey, this has happened. Can you troubleshoot this?
That's
with
right.
me?
There's
Like, even
double
if they're
income or
not,
whatever it
exactly,
is.
There's double income, even if they're not physically there.
Yeah.
They're coming back.
Yeah.
So it's a very different situation when it's
Yeah.
just like, there's no one to call.
Yeah.
It's me. I'm in this, and I'm in this 24/7. There
Yeah.
ain't no tap out at 5 p.m. when someone comes
That's
home to
right.
give me the tap out.
Yeah.
So I think I don't think you should have any sympathy for that. This is a choice. I'm really happy I made the choice, but I think in some situations, and more women are doing this, I think the default position of you must have done this with a partner, or I don't know. I just think that's the kind of approach that a lot of people have. And even when I was in hospital, I found that at the end of my time there, I had a bit of a moment with the nurses because one of them came in to me and said, I don't think you're doing as well as we thought you might be in here. And I was like,
In what way?
I just really hit the skids because I was on my own for 6 days, and I had gone into a private hospital because I thought, I don't have anybody at home, so I will have staff there, people helping, people telling me what to do. And the hospital was in overflow at the time, so they had more people than they had beds, and I just completely got forgotten. Like, nobody showed me how to change a nappy, bath a baby. I turned up to a lactation class because I'd had a really bad night on that night 2 cluster feed where they're sort of trying to feed and there's nothing coming out, and a midwife came in and I was asking for help, and she just turned to me and said, well, this is what night 2's like. And I was like, whoa. Okay, and I'd almost dropped her like 3 times. I was just, this is just the worst. And so I turned up to this lactation class, and the first thing the lady said to me, everybody's there in partners, and I would never care about that, wouldn't even register.
Yeah.
But the first thing she said to me is, where's your partner? And I just thought, could we assume that not everybody has one?
Yeah.
Like and that I don't have to, in this totally broken, I've had no sleep and I'm not myself moment, I don't want to explain my life choices to you.
Yeah, sure.
I'd just like you to assume that this could be one of the options on the list of options, and just go, you're here, great to see you. Let's take you through the class.
What did you do?
And I mean, who knows what other option? I mean, there's other options that why you're single, single parenting as well. If you came in on your own, the father might have passed away,
Totally.
God forbid.
Totally.
Like, there's one night stand. I mean, there's so
Totally.
many other options
Yes.
that could have brought a massive amount of shame to that woman. I mean, to not have the wherewithal to sort of have that understanding is
How did you deal with it?
Is a missing link.
I just said nothing. Honestly, my usual reaction would be that I would probably have the ability to turn around and go, well, I'm lucky enough not to have one. But in that moment, I just leave me alone.
Yeah.
Please go away. Tell me what to do, because I am
just help
actually
me
going to
now.
cry right now.
Yeah.
And I do not want to cry in this room full of people. I just want you to tell me what to do so I can get out of here.
Yeah.
And so I essentially just hid in my room for 6 days. And so, of course, at the end of 6 days, when you haven't left the room and you've been doing the whole baby thing by yourself, and you've had a C-section and you're trying to deal with that, you're not going to be too well on the other side of that. And when I had the conversation with this nurse, she sort of said, I actually don't think we're set up here to help people who are on their own.
Okay.
Like, I think we always assume there's somebody in there. If the door's shut, there's someone in there, because that's what happens with everybody,
Right.
So it's like, it's probably been a good learning for us
Okay.
that we just weren't equipped with somebody being there by themselves. And that day she sort of took my baby and just did her rounds with her so I could have a shower. And that was like, I mean, I think I got 15 minutes to myself, and I thought it was just the best day I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, sure.
It was just like, this
It's
is
the little
incredible.
things.
It is the little
Yeah,
things,
remember
but
that.
it's just,
Yeah.
there's no break, so because you can't hand this kid off. So I think now one of the things that I've noticed actually sort of speaking about it more publicly is I actually didn't realize how many women are doing it like this. But from the contact that I've had, I'm like, wow, there are a lot, and there are a lot that want to do it as well.
Yeah.
And so I think often the assumption is I couldn't do that by myself. There's no way I could do this by myself. And I want women to feel like, yeah, you could.
Yeah.
You totally could.
Does the system allow, is it easy to for you to do it? Is
in terms of the process of
well,
doing
yeah,
it, like
just all
through
the
IVF
protocols and stuff, IVF and I mean, obviously you need some money. I know about that.
Yes.
Though, is it a doable thing for most single women to do?
I think so. Like, I actually felt really positive about the whole process. I know that a lot of people go through it and they find a lot of the stuff confronting, like the injections and all that kind of stuff. But I sort of found that stuff just part of the process to get to where you want to go, you know? So I actually thought to myself, thank goodness I'm a woman because I have the oven.
Yeah.
You know, all I need to do is have the money to get some sperm. And if I've got the eggs there, I mean, even then I could get some eggs from somebody else and like cook it myself.
Yeah.
But being a man who wants to do this, trying to find a woman to actually give you their uterus, like that's a big ask.
That's a big ask.
It's a big ask.
And you can't, like in America, you can pay
people.
someone.
Yes.
Australia, it has to be voluntary. So
Yeah.
I thought about that. I was
I
like,
did too.
imagine the flip side of that.
I was going to ask you about this.
Yeah,
I had a
man,
conversation.
42, desperate to be a dad.
Yeah.
What does he do?
The conversation I had with a fellow the other day who's probably 45, he is completely desolate, emotionally devoid and upset. He's cranky at the world because he's like, his girlfriend that he had plans with, she took off with somebody else and he wants to be a dad. And he said to me, he goes, you will never understand the feeling that I have of emptiness, that I will never be a dad. And then when I knew we were going to be talking, I thought, I need to ask you about your thoughts about, I want to go back and fix him and go, of course you can be his dad. You can adopt someone, you can do that. But it's like, nah, this isn't the place to do that. He doesn't want to be that. I'll just, let him have whatever do what he's doing. And then I'll be there in another way for him. But to have that dream, and he's just like, nah, it's just never going to happen for me to be a single dad.
And that is heartbreaking. Honestly, in the process of kind of getting ready for this, I would talk a lot to my therapist because I was saying to her, like, I want to do this, but my mind's not kicking into gear. And I know, and I've been seeing her a long time. I'm like, I come to things in the right time. But I'm also aware it's taken me a little too long, but I know I'll get there eventually.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I just am trying to kick over into that. And she said to me, look, one of the things that I see that is like I can't fix in my business is people who've wanted to, haven't done it, and are later in life, like that feeling of loss, of regret, of, you can't fix that. So I would just say to you, like that is, if you really know you want to do that, if you don't do it, like that's kind of something that I see a lot. And a great exercise she got me to do was she said, go home and write on 2 pieces of paper the best version of your life with kids and the best version of your life without kids, and then weigh those 2 things up. And I could not even write the one that was the best version of my life without kids.
Wow.
Because it didn't exist.
Yeah.
So that for me was like, I'm like, there's no version.
Yeah.
Of that. I didn't even know what I'd put on that.
Yeah.
To say that's the best version of my life, like a travel. That's not enough for me, So that was a really good exercise for me when getting my mind in. And I think that was a real trigger for getting me moving in terms of realizing, okay, you might be taking a while, but you really do want this. This is the best version of your life, so you've got to give it a go,
I'm going to quote you on something that you've said in a previous article. You talk about your mum who passed away in 2015 and how proud she would have been of you for doing this on your own. My mum passed away in 2015 and she would have been proud of me doing this on my own. When I went through the process of finding the donor, I spoke to the clinic and they said, start your injections tomorrow. And you looked at your diary and it was like, my God, it's my mum's birthday tomorrow. I know.
I know.
Yeah. And you had so many of those moments once you started that made you feel this is the time. I have goosebumps all over my body. It's happening at the right time. Even when your daughter arrived, seeing her and her mannerisms and the personality traits that are coming out, you were like, you are my person. You are the person that was supposed to come to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
And then all of a sudden you're like, I did come to it in the right time for
Yeah.
me. You know, it took
Yeah.
me a long time. And I think one thing when you're late 30s, early 40s, I mean, there's no shortage of people that are happy to tell you that you are running out of time.
Oh, yeah.
And that is something that you are always painstakingly aware of. You know, I had frozen my eggs twice in my 30s because I knew that career was very important to me. I knew that I wanted to achieve a lot and try and get to a point where I felt like I could take time, and I didn't feel like I could take time out until really I did it. So that was kind of important to me. But I doubted myself that whole time of like, I knew myself well enough to know I do come to things in the right time, but everything tells me that I'm taking too long.
Yeah.
Every bit of science tells
Right.
me, every bit of any conversation I
It's
have
telling
tells
you that.
me,
Yep.
you know, I'm taking too long here. So when all of that stuff happened, I was just like, I did it at the right time for me. And, you know, my mum, that watching her as a kid have no real independence at all, have no option really to do what she wanted to do in life. It just, I know she would have been so happy for me to do this because I think she would have wished that she would have had that option too, you know, and it just wasn't available even for people not too long ago. It wasn't too long ago that you could like only freeze your eggs if you were a cancer patient, or, you know, all of this technology
Right.
has moved along to the point where actually we can choose to do this and do it on our own.
Yeah.
And that option just wasn't a possibility for my mother. And that's only, you know, my mother's generation. So I'm so grateful for the fact that I could do it. And I think, you know, one of my great memories of her when I was younger, and I don't even think that this was after my dad and her got divorced. I think this was during their marriage. Anytime we would drive past a wedding, she would scream out the car window, "Don't do it!" And at the time, I remember thinking to myself, I think this is psychologically good for anyone. You, me, my sister. But anyway.
People getting married.
Yeah, the people getting married. I mean, it's humorous, but kind of in an unhinged way, you know?
Yeah, right.
So I just know she would have been so excited about me going down this path. And even my dad, I never had parents that said to me, "Where's your partner? When are you going to find somebody?"
Nice.
Never
Okay.
had that. And my
Yeah.
dad was really proud of me for doing it on my own, because I think he saw that as a very kind of powerful thing to do.
Yeah.
So I was lucky in that regard too, because I do know a lot of people who I've spoken to whose parental pressure is massive in terms of their decision, impacting their decision to do it on their own because their parents aren't happy about that option.
Yeah.
And that's hard to
Yeah.
have to take on board.
We have friends back in America, and she was 42 and so wanted a child, and her partner did not. And they talked about it. She's actually a therapist, actually, talked about it, blew in the face. And he said, "I'm giving you one shot. I'm giving you one shot. We're going to Mexico. One shot for you to get pregnant. If you don't get pregnant after this time, I don't want to hear it again." Yeah, I know. And that one shot.
Oh, no, just another thing to go, yep, you made the right decision.
Yeah,
And
you made
check.
it right. Yeah. However,
She got pregnant on her one shot at 42, had a baby girl. You also, which I go, well, it was meant to be. This baby was right there hanging over her going, "Come on, Mum, come on." And I feel it's the same for you because you were pregnant really fast,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And just, was the pregnancy easy, hard? How was that for you?
Yeah, I was very lucky. I mean, I had gotten to a point where I had enough eggs on ice that I was like, I've got the insurance policy I need. I spoke to every fertility specialist. There's a high chance there's a baby in there in terms, you know, so that's great. I'm like, fantastic. So then I go in and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start this process. I don't want to use my insurance policy straight away. I know that it might not work with my fresh eggs. I'm going to try with my fresh eggs so I don't waste any of them.
Yeah.
And then once I've moved through those, then I'll start to go into the insurance policy. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm probably got 2-3 years of this kind of process. That's what the fertility specialist was saying to me. The chances of me getting pregnant, low. Having a kid, low at my age. but I felt like all the insurance policies were there. And then 13 weeks later, after getting the thing implanted, I'm sitting down with my boss saying, I actually thought I would be talking to you about this in 2 years, but I'm pregnant and I'm having a baby.
Yeah.
So it was literally first embryo, first go, like the pregnancy was totally fine.
Yeah.
It all felt to me like this is happening in a way that just makes me feel like this is right.
Absolutely.
And even, sometimes I feel like you're not allowed to tell people you have a good pregnancy because some people are like, oh, well, it's good for some, isn't it? Some of it gets so easy. And I just think if I hear from a woman who's pregnant, who's having a great time, I'm like, that's fantastic.
Yes.
But honestly, in my case, I thought if I was going through this process on my own and I was sick as a dog and I'm running out of meetings to spew in a bucket and I can't, but I would honestly have seriously doubted my decision to do this because it would have felt overwhelming and too much by myself. But the fact that I had a great pregnancy and a great lead up, I really felt by the time it was time to have a kid, I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm capable of it. And I think you need that energy to go into your life at that point, which changes fundamentally. If you're going in there broken and like, I don't want to do this, that's a strong climb out.
Yeah.
You know? So I was really grateful for that process because I felt like it gave me the strength to then do the rest of it on my own.
So now Olivia's almost 2?
Almost 2, yeah.
Almost 2. Has being a parent now, how has that changed you?
I guess I think about myself differently. Like it really forces you to reflect a lot, which I like to do.
Okay.
As someone who's spent a lot of money in therapy, I like to do the work. So I really enjoy the process of this, even though it is so flippin' hard.
Yeah.
And some days I genuinely don't know how I get through it. But I'm really proud of myself because I can see I am really trying to do what she needs. So, for example, at the moment, it's taking us 45 minutes to move 2 millimeters. And when I'm in the process of that, internally, my brain is on fire.
Yes.
I am ready to throw multiple items of furniture in my house out the window. But she knows none of that.
Yeah.
What she's getting is patience and me just waiting and taking my time with her and being conscious. Inside, what I want to do is bend down to her face and say, you're an asshole. But I don't. I keep my cool. And when that is done and when we're wherever we need to do, I feel very proud of myself.
Yeah, so you should.
And those moments, I think I found the same thing when I looked after my dad or when my mum was sick.
Right.
Those moments, I think, were fundamental in changing the way that I felt about myself, my internal happiness, my sense of contentment. My life changed dramatically when my parents were sick because there is something about being there for somebody else and making them feel good and safe and cared for that makes you then think about yourself in a different way.
Yeah.
You process yourself like, this is a good thing to be doing for another person.
Yes, yeah.
And so I really appreciated all of that time that I had with my parents, and I feel like it's a different type of way of doing that.
Yeah.
But I'm getting those same cues back when I do it right. But then some days you lose your top and I will beat myself up about it. And then I get up and I try and do better the next day. And I really do try. And I will say to her, I remember one night I really lost it because I was just like, this is just a lot. It's too much. But the next day she woke up and I said to her, like, she has no idea what happened yesterday, but I'm just like, Mummy wants you to know I'm really sorry for the way I was yesterday. You know I got angry and that's not okay. And I'm going to try much harder today. You know, and I just am like, I'm just going to keep you along with me on the journey because we can't be perfect all the time.
How do you respond to her when she says that to you?
I wish.
It's like, hi, it's Rachel's daughter. You can imagine her as a 2-year-old
I was going to say
going.
she'll have her own podcast next year. She'll be like, come on, kids, go on the podcast.
She started to say, I say to her at night time, I love you. You know how much I love you? Yeah. She goes, yes. And I'm like, and then she goes, thank you, Mummy.
Oh,
it's like those little moments where you're just like, I want to be somebody who makes a safe environment for a person. And I think I didn't really feel like I had that as a kid. And I think I spent so much of my 20s and 30s trying to work it out because I hadn't had that early on.
Yeah.
And I don't want her to have those lost years that I had where I'm like trying to figure it out. I feel like crap. I'm depressed. I'm whatever. I'm sure like this happens even with the best laid intentions. I know that it still might happen, but I want to give her the foundations to be like, I'm safe.
Yeah.
I know I can always come back to you. I know you'll always be there and I can be safe and free to explore whoever I am, knowing I will always be loved and home is where I'm
There's
okay.
nothing more. There's not. I mean, that's everything that we want, we need is, just as a human being, let alone a baby,
Totally.
So.
It's that sort of weird thing. I wonder about how we parent differently to our parents and how like our parents, they got away with just some nonchalance. You know what I mean? It was all pretty much like, well, you're here, you got food in your face, you're going to school, you go to bed.
That's it.
That'll do.
Absolutely.
You work the rest of it out.
Yeah.
Whereas now we're so conscious of like, how do I mold this person?
Yeah.
How do I give them the safe, nurturing,
Do you think it's too much
emotional
now, or do you
environment?
think there's some balance between 70s and 80s parents as to what's happening now in the 2000s?
I think you've got to get a good balance of it because I think
Yeah.
I do think we need to be more about letting that person grow in our care.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was much of that going on for a while there. So I do think there's a lot of benefit to that. But I think the sort of cotton woolness that we've gotten to a little, I'm like, that's why we got some pretty non-resilient people floating around here,
Yeah.
And resilience is truly the most important thing that you can develop.
I think so.
Because then nothing going to keep you down, you know?
You are the queen of resilience from what you've shared with us. I know your daughter will have it in spades for sure. I completely agree with that, having spent many years as a teacher now being in the schoolyard and we have swung to this place where where one piece of playground equipment and a kid falls off and breaks their arm, that equipment is removed immediately. I'm like, wait, hang on a minute. Kids are going to break their arms if they're on a tree, if they're just tripping on the curb. You can't stop them from, and I know there's all these laws, constant laws, and of course we want to keep the kids safe, but get them dirty, take them out, get them hot and bothered and come back. And
if your kid falls off the monkey bars, don't sue the school because
Don't
then
sue
that's
the
why the
school.
monkey bars are no longer there anymore.
Correct.
Because it's like they're straight to the lawyer's office.
Yes.
They're right on the number of that, have you had an accident? They've heard that ad on the radio and they're like, yeah, we've had an accident. Give me some money.
Yeah, new car in the office.
Every one of our houses, the first thing I did was build a sandpit and monkey bars for our kids.
Yeah, it was the best.
They
loved it.
They all had calluses all the way to the middle of their palms, and it was just monkey bar city,
And it's a good exercise as parents because I get scared about seeing my kid do dangerous stuff. And by dangerous, I just mean at this point, it's like, am I going to try and walk down the last stair of the staircase by myself without holding your hand?
Yeah.
But it's a good lesson for me to be like, you can do it. And if you fall, I'll pick you up. And if I end up in the emergency department, I just got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like that's just part of it. So I can't spend my life trying to avoid the trauma of the emergency department. I just got to let you be.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Our kids, it was like, you're a really good climber. Gee, you're good at those monkey bars.
Well, our son would climb to 50-foot up a tree and I'd be like, you're really strong, honey. You are so strong and safe up there. Oh, my God, get down.
Yes.
I've got chocolate at the bottom if you come down now, though.
It's a real mental game
Oh,
for
yeah.
us,
It is.
Yeah.
And the visuals, I mean, that's what I loved about it was sending this because it works in so many different places in our lives in terms of what we're thinking. People pick up psychically. So you can actually send a visual and you practice it with your kids and you're just like, there's, as Ali said, River's miles up a tree and it's like, there's nothing underneath him, and it's like, oh, I've got to send in the visual. You're really good.
Yeah,
That's really good. Yeah, where's the next branch? There it is, Dad. Okay, you do that. Grab that one.
That's it.
And just whatever. But it was the visuals of sending the idea, to someone, and it's a great practice with our kids because they're little sensory little buttons, aren't they?
Oh my
and
God.
that's good parenting, Who also, just quickly, who is saying, God, you'll miss the newborn phase? What moron misses the newborn phase? Is that something that happens when you have more than one? Because I can tell you what, I don't want to go have another newborn in my life ever again.
Okay.
They're a nightmare.
Right.
It's so hard. Am I the only person that thinks that?
Well, I think a solo mum doing number 2 or 3 would be really tough because at least you can palm off Olivia onto old mate, and so you go take her.
Yeah.
and
No, I'm not going to be outnumbered.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
That's
right.
it. Done.
That's
Done.
not going to happen.
I remember the first time our eldest, it was such a simple thing, but it's so vivid. I'd given her a mandarin to eat. And I remember she sat there and she started peeling like the tiny little bits of white sort of pith off. And I remember just going, oh, this is her personality. Like that's something I didn't do. She's not seen anyone else do. She's come to that herself. And it was this moment of like, that's her personality. This is so cute. I mean, I just thought everything was adorable. What are you seeing with Olivia that's her personality? What's coming through?
I saw the very first couple of days, like, because I had a C-section, she wasn't squeezed out. So, they're full of mucus. Isn't that delightful? So she was, coughing and spluttering for the first couple of days while she's getting all that out. And I remember, I thought to myself, am I an idiot for thinking this? But she would be coughing, spluttering. It would be quite confronting because I'm like, you seem like you can't really breathe. But she would never get upset about it. She'd just be looking at me with this look of like, I'm going to cough this stuff out and then we're going to get on with this.
Right.
And she would do that every single time. And I would think, I can see resilience in this baby. Like I can see that this is a kid that just does it and get it done. And that has been true every single step of the way.
Wow.
Like she's just so, when we fall down, we get back up. So I felt like I saw that right in the very beginning. The other thing that I see that I'm interested in is what traits will be the donors. I don't know him.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's like I'm interested to see like what things are going to come out that are going to be like, oh, that's not really like me. And one thing she has been doing, she's very like we have this like a pool at the apartment that I live at, and there's often people down there, and every time we park the car, my garage is next to the pool, she's like, go say hi. And I'm like, yeah, you can go say hi. So she goes down to the pool to see if anybody's down there, and she looks around. If somebody's down there, she does her chat, which is a bit cold today, and then that's the only chat she's got, but she just goes around everyone, bit cold today. And I'm like, that's not me. I don't go up to random strangers. Like I'll have a chat with you all day long and I want to have a real, honest, open conversation. But do I want to have small talk with people I don't know? No, I do not.
Yeah, right.
So if you set me adrift in a party where I know nothing, that is my hell.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Where I know nobody, I don't know. No. I would prefer to be a waiter there because I have a use.
I know
what my purpose in the room is.
Yeah.
I'm serving the people drinks.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable in that space. But you just send me out to network or meet people that I don't know. No, thank you very much. And so I see this in her. I'm like, well, that ain't me.
Yeah.
That must be him.
That's Mr. Haverchat.
That's it, exactly. So it's interesting those little things that are coming out that I'm just like, oh, what are the bits that are going to be him? Because I don't know him at all.
Do you get like medical history? And okay.
You get a lot of information actually.
Yeah.
I ended up going with a clinic who in Australia, but they have a American donor bank.
Okay.
So there was a lot more option. In Australia, you don't get paid, and honestly, it's like people come on very rarely, and then everyone's like, sharks to the fish kind of. 'Cause there's not a whole bunch of people going. Whereas in America, you can. I had friends of mine who were like a gay couple, and they wanted one of the partner that wasn't carrying the kid to look a bit like it. So it's like, can we find someone with blonde hair? Because you want to find the characteristics that make it feel like that person is also that kid. So you can do a bit more of that when the bank is a little bit bigger. So the information that they gave you also was a lot bigger. So we had all medical history of their family. They write you sort of a little, answer a bunch of questions. There was also some audio that you can hear them talk. So that was really nice to hear them talk. But I mean, the delightful nurses are not Michael Parkinson. So they're asking some things like, what's your favourite food? And I'm like, I'm not choosing this person on whether they like spaghetti bolognese. I'll give you the hot
I
tip.
like my haggis, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we go a little deeper?
Let's go a little deeper. This
Yeah.
is definitely not what I need to know.
Yeah. Did one of
are
them
you
say it's a bit cold today?
yeah, exactly. A bit cold today. But the thing,
Are you a serial killer?
yeah, totally. That's what you need to know.
I smash my Fruit Loops in the morning.
But I was really worried that I wouldn't be able to get a sense of whether this person was good and kind.
Yeah.
I didn't really care about, I mean, I did care about the medical history, but a lot of people were like, oh, just get the good medical history. The rest is nurture. And I'm like, no. I do want to know that this person is a good person. And for a while looking through the things, I'm like, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to find that. But what I settled on when I found this donor is there was a little section where it's like a express yourself, it's called. And so some people draw, write a poem, just like whatever. And he had written about something that he was really drawn to as a kid, and the essence of what he had written was that he said that he feels like being unselfconsciously drawn to something, even if it is embarrassing, is one of the most blissful things in the world. And I thought that is not something a not good person writes.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
that kind of idea of liking something even if it's silly, or that's the quality I want my daughter to have. I
Yeah.
don't want her to feel like she has to be cool, or, you know,
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff. I want her to feel like I can really find joy in the things that find me joy, no matter how silly they are, and I can be proud of that. I don't need to feel self-conscious about that. So that was the thing that made me choose him, and I was really excited once I made the choice about the choice, which I didn't think I would get to, because essentially you're reading medical records and like a dossier about sperm. So you're like, can I get to a point where I'm excited about doing that? But once I sort of saw those qualities and read his things, I was like, no, these are good qualities, and I want to bring that into the world.
And you see a photo of
when they're kids,
Oh,
not
when
when they're
they're-
adults.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, so you can see, and I think that's
Interesting,
actually
okay.
quite good because you can't identify them, right? So you can't see them as an adult. But when you see their photos as a kid, like you can see the light behind a kid's eyes.
Sure.
You know, you can see something in them that makes you go, oh, that's a good kid.
Yeah.
You know, so I thought that was really cool. I actually pulled the photos out the other day because I was like, I wonder if she looks like him, but actually she looks like more like me as a kid.
Yeah.
But she does have really curly hair, which he has. So it's interesting as she grows up to kind of bring those things out and see, oh, how much of that is this person, you know?
What an amazing process. I mean, I'm sure many women might be feeling or thinking, I wish I did that. I wish I had have taken the opportunity. But what do you feel holds those women back?
The society,
Yeah.
you know, like the pressure. It's a lot. You know, I think back to that man on the boat in Greece. There's a lot of women that would have felt embarrassed and gone like, you know what, this kind of thing makes me feel like this isn't something that the world thinks is great.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I think we get those messages all the time. Maybe not as extreme as leaping out of a boat in the middle of Greece, but we still get those messages of like, that's not what we do here.
Yeah.
You know? And it is hard as a person to stand up against those things and to say, well, actually, it is what we do here, and to still get up and feel every day like you are. This is a powerful thing to do and an impressive thing to do and a positive thing to do. And, you know, to still be told, you know, or to still be looked at when somebody asks you if you're doing something and you tell them you're doing it by themselves, like that's a bit sad. You know, you have to get in your own head and be like, this ain't the right thing. Like, you're wrong. I'm right. This is a good thing to do. Now, I would say that therapy's helped me massively with that, you know, but it is hard. It's hard work. And I can understand how it's just easier sometimes to go, I don't want to keep explaining myself.
Yeah, fair enough.
You've got onto your podcast. It's called Me and My Tiny Human. I can't imagine what inspired this. But tell us about that.
Yeah. So this is just a show that was born out of all of these conversations that I'd had with people and the sort of reactions and the feeling that I just wanted to put out a version of this life into the world that was like, this is a really good option if you want to do it. And here's all the highs and the lows and the crap bits and the bits where you'd be ready to tear your hair out and throw the furniture out the door, but it ain't unmanageable to the point where you're like, I shouldn't have done this. Like, not one day have I ever thought, gosh, I shouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
Like, never, you know, even when it's just been at the absolute pinnacle of what I can put up with. So it's, you know, I think the way that I think about it, it's different to what I've heard other people talk about it, you know, in terms of it feeling like a very powerful option and not a consolation prize, you know. And so that is the thing with this podcast is I want people to listen to it and feel like, wow, I could do this. Like this is actually cool. That it isn't like the reaction that I get from other people. This is actually something really like a really great option for me, you know. And I think I've had a lot of contact from women who have done it by themselves or really want to do it by themselves. A lot of people that are like going through the process and have found the podcast and are like, oh my gosh, I'm like literally at the beginning of this and it's so good to hear that like it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I am going to be fine. Like I am making the right choice, because I think we all doubt ourselves through that process. So that was really what the show was about for me, to kind of share that message, make people feel like I can do this.
And will is it a weekly offering?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have a time limit on it, or will you take us through the whole journey?
When my friend of mine who knew it was coming out thought it was going to be just like 5 episodes, and then she's like, "You're doing this every week?" You're like, "Good." And I mean, I work in podcasting. I know you want to keep these things alive. They got to keep going. You know, you knew this too. You can't just stop it. So yeah, the plan is to keep it alive until I collapse.
Well, it'd be great to hear your views when she's 15 and she's found the kid, you know, and there's the pimply faced kid rocking up to the front door, you know.
Yeah.
Where's Olivia?
I know. All this stuff to look forward to, right? It's all different challenges at different stages.
Different phases. I mean, we're, you know, even our eldest who's 28, we're still parenting, but in a whole different way, which is really, it's a whole other phase.
But you never stop. My mum and dad are in their 80s, and I'm so glad they are still parenting.
That's cool.
They're still there, you know,
That's
and
cool.
I still look for their wisdom.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what I desperately hope for.
Yeah.
You know, I hope Olivia still looks to me at that time, because I do think having that anchor and that's, you know, that's someone to come back to, and I think it's just amazing.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
There's one question that's just gnawing on my brain, going, just ask it. Do you feel like your capacity to love has grown as a result of becoming a mum?
I don't know that it's grown so much as she's filled the bits that weren't full before. So it just feels fuller. You know, I think the capacity was always there, but I've never been loved like this in a relationship.
Yeah.
Never. You know, I don't even feel like I felt love like this from my parents.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, so this is the first feeling of that capacity, and that feels pretty effing cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is really, and I'm sure you can, I don't think that's only available in a parent-kid relationship. I think, I'm sure there's, you know, relationships that do that parent, like people with their relationship with their parents or people with their romantic partner, but I've just never experienced that. So this is a really cool filling of my cup.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. The unconditional love that parenting brings, I just think I don't think there's anything like that kind of love, that parent-child love. I think it really is in a category of its own. Yeah.
And the responsibility that comes with that. Like you see a lot of people who have not been great to their kids, and all those kids want is love from their parents.
Yeah.
You could do all manner of things to your
Yeah.
kids and they would still just want you to love them.
That's right.
So I feel like when you know you can get away with some pretty crap stuff, you've got a responsibility to really respect that love that kid has for you and actually give it what it deserves.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because that's a pretty powerful love coming your way.
Agreed.
Well, boss,
The boss
you've
of
told
all.
us a lot, and we're not going to hold any of it against you in our next
You
contract
go to HR after
negotiation.
this. I'm going to lose
Do you
it.
know what Rachel
What
said?
did she say? I was going to say, based on this, don't go watching Succession, how they deal with their parents and children. Yeah,
Oh
the,
my
the
gosh.
hideous things
I
that
know.
happen in that show.
Hopefully it doesn't turn out like that for me, Olivia.
Oh, we're deep in it. We're late to the Succession party, but I'm just watching that going, the kids will still love their parents.
Totally,
Even
that's
though the
it.
parents are absolutely
I
flawed.
know.
Still want
know.
approval, still want, yeah.
I
yeah,
know.
no,
This is
so
the
true.
complexity.
It is.
Yeah.
It's great,
Yeah.
Ryan. Thanks so much for coming on and getting to the heart of it.
Yes.
Good job. You did it.
Hey.
And I think Olivia is a very, very lucky girl to have you. I really do.
Maybe cry
Yeah.
again. Thanks, guys.